Welcome back to Hi-Fi Lo-Fi. What have I got for you here? What on earth is it? Why did I buy it? Look carefully. Can you see why I have bought this item? Now, I don't normally go for this kind of system, this kind of audio gear. And by the way, there's the other speaker. Some call it a bookshelf system, some call it a mini system. Not sure whether you'd call it a micro system. Why have I got it? Can you tell? Here we are. Here's the thing. It's HiMD. Didn't know it existed. That's why I bought it. I bought it simply because it's got HiMD. Currently I don't have a HiMD in there. I have got HiMDs. If you look back at some of my videos, you'll see I do have a few HiMD discs, and you'll also know that as I'm a fan of HiMD, I have two different MD decks that are HiMD. You can see those in previous videos. So HiMD was primarily used in portable devices such as Walkman type portable mini disc players and recorders. And this mini system, this bookshelf system, was a surprise find because it's got HiMD. Now, I paid 8,000 yen for this. For under $80, I got a 2005. It's from 2005. Here's the model number, FRB7. And it's also known, by the way, as XB7. So the FR-B7 is also known as X-B7. I shall put a link in the description below so you can read more about it. Now, there are other units in this series that are very similar. This is actually the entry level model of this series. There are three that are almost identical in this series, and this is the cheaper version, and they all contain a HiMD component in the system. It was described as very good, described as having nothing wrong with it and being cleaned thoroughly. Well, it wasn't cleaned thoroughly. I can live with it. I can clean it. Cleaning's no issue. It's not perfect. It's got a couple of things on it. Look, there's some sort of scratch on the top, some sort of nick on the top there, and it's got some scratches and stains on it. Although it's mainly plastic, this fascia, if I come around a little bit, if you can see there, this fascia is brushed aluminium. This part here is plastic. This is plastic. And this CD tray is plastic. And all the buttons and the volume knob, all the controls are plastic. But this fascia and this part here is brushed aluminium. So that gives it a slightly premium feel compared to a lot of units like this, which tend to be all plastic. As I understand it, yeah, it's a 2005 model, and of course, being from that era, it's not going to have such things as Bluetooth. So here's the control. Something annoying that I personally don't like is the fact that there are functions on the control that are not on the unit itself. Now, that's something that annoys me. I wish that all functions were available on units, so we don't have to use controls, and especially annoying if the batteries run out and you don't have spares. To give you an idea of its size, I've got my old iPhone 5S, so there, that puts it into some perspective. Why have I got an old iPhone 5S? Well, I use it as an iPod, that's why. Right, so let's measure it. And what do we got here? We've got 24 centimeters, 240 millimeters high. What's the width? It's 15.5, so 155 millimeters wide. Now, Worth noting is that Onkyo has an Intec 155 series that, of course, that number means 155 millimeters wide. Now that'll be interesting to know whether people did connect some Intec 155 components to this. For example, and it's something I'm going to do, I'm going to connect a tape deck to this because this is CDMD tuner, that's FM/AM tuner. When I first got it, when I first opened it up and started using it, the MD deck did not work at all and it took ages for it to read. It still takes quite a while for it to read discs. But I have noticed that once it does read a disc and once it's been playing discs, it's a lot quicker to read them. But if it's been dormant, if I haven't used it for a while, it takes ages to read discs. If you know what that is, I'm just assuming it's a laser issue and I'm assuming that it needs cleaning. So if you've got advice on that, let me know in the comments. These speakers, these wood grain speakers, pretty powerful. They another thing that wasn't mentioned by the seller when I bought it is that the speaker covers are broken. That's the little lugs there. Can you see the two lugs on the bottom there have broken off, snapped off in the receiving holes on the speaker on that side, and on this side one of them has. On this side both at the bottom. On this side one at the bottom has. But not going to cry about that, not going to get worried, because the actual speakers themselves are in good condition. The cones are all good and surprisingly good sound. I was not expecting this unit to have a good sound, and as long as you accept it for what it is, a bookshelf system, a mini system, and it really is a bookshelf. Got a few books on there now. And by the way, another thing that if you've I'd be interested to hear if you've got a decent storage facility for your mini discs, because I've got them in this old box and it's not what I want, and I cannot find a nice mini disc holder to go on a bookshelf. So if you've got one, let us know where you got it from and show us some details, because the ones that I did have back in the day, one of them went mouldy and the others just were plastic, and the plastic started to perish and discolour and go brittle and break. So I no longer have a dedicated mini disc holder storage facility, and it's rather annoying. So yeah, if you've got any advice on that, let me know. So there is a disc in there ready to play. Now of course you're not going to know what the true sound is like on a YouTube video. I didn't record using this device. I recorded using my Intec 275 deck from VLC Media Player via, that's from the internet, via my Mac Mini. There we are. It's using my Dragonfly DAC that is plugged into a USB extension. That cable then goes into RCA connectors at the back of my Onkyo amp. Then the disc was recorded on that mini disc deck there, which is a HiMD mini disc deck. See another video for that information. I'm just going to press play here. So hopefully you can hear me over the music now, and as I said, I recorded that file from it was a featured artist on VLC media player, and I thought it sounded quite nice. I quite like it. So this device has tone controls. You can adjust bass and treble, but it's also got something called super bass. So you can see there, it's got a super bass. So that super bass is controllable here. There's a button here, and I'll turn it up, and I don't know if you can be, whether you'll be able to notice, but I'll turn it up and I'll adjust the super bass. So there we are, and I don't know whether you could hear it, but the bass definitely is very, the super bass is very effective. It's got a very loud thumping bass. I'm going to turn the unit around now and show you the back. Right, so that's the back of the unit. So we're looking at inputs and outputs and things. We've got FM antenna connector, AM antenna connector. We've got a pre-out for a subwoofer. I don't think you would need to use a subwoofer with the super bass setting. Speaker clamps there, no banana plugs or anything like that, just basic speaker clamps. RCA line in, tape RCA in and out. Interestingly, it says video there, so this is a stereo video connection. So I'm assuming, I mean, back in the day, 2005, I think most people were using DVDs at that time. It's interesting that they expected people to plug in 2-channel video, but I suppose that's what they did. I mean, I still do that. It's got the speaker impedance, so it can handle 4 ohms up to 6, from 4 ohms up to 16 ohms. And something I find quite odd is this looks like an afterthought, this bolted on heatsink at the back. Now, I'm not sure how well you can see, but there's a lot of space in there and a lot of air vents, and it does get warm. It's not the weather isn't warm today, but the unit does get quite warm, and I'm assuming in the summer, and the summers are brutally hot here, I'm assuming this unit does get hot. So I guess, it's just a guess, just a theory, maybe what happened was a previous generation of this suffered overheating issues, so they rather than redesign the whole unit, they just bolted on this additional heatsink for an updated version of this series or something. Slightly annoying, of course, because it makes it a rather deep, it is rather a deep unit, which means it won't fit on everybody's bookshelves. So what is the depth of this thing? Let's have a look. There we are. It's, well, the main body, if you don't account for various like connectors and sockets and knobs on the front, is 300mm. But of course, once you add on all the extra and this heatsink bolted at the back, you're looking at 340, maybe slightly more, 350 I would say, from end to end. In fact, more than that if you take into account the volume control sticking out the front. If you're going to put it on a bookshelf, the feet are where the black case each corner of the black cover. So you need about 280 millimeters at least for your bookshelf depth. So they supplied the original FM antenna. I assume it's the original one, and it came with this FM antenna. And I have tried the radio, and it does indeed work. And the radios sound excellent, by the way. And I've noticed that Japanese FM broadcasts have really high quality sound. They sound really amazing. And if you can get a decent, I'm on a mountainside here, and so I'm in a more elevated position. If you can get a decent reception, you can get a very, very high quality sound through an FM tuner in Japan. It's really good. Right, so the back of the speakers, obviously they're both the same, and I say they're both the same. Some speakers actually say on them that they're left and right, but I couldn't see anything on these to indicate left or right. So I guess it didn't matter. And you can see that they're rear ported with this rather narrow but long rear port. And again, they are the standard clamp type connectors. And maximum power handling 70 watts, impedance 4 ohms. So let's check the height of the speakers. The height of the speakers is 240 millimeters, and the width of the speakers 150 millimeters. 25 mil tweeters and 100 mil woofers. If you're interested in the various functions, pause your video now. Discrete output stage. What does that mean? Can anyone tell me what that means? They love little catchy phrases, acronyms, and technical sounding initials of various technologies. The Japanese, they love adding all these things to their marketing and slapping them on the faces of all their gear. That was it. I wanted to show you that because, as I said, what amazes me is its HiMD capability. Totally blew me away. That very unexpected. I trawl through the various internet sites that sell used audio gear, and I also trawl through the shelves of shops that sell used audio gear in Japan, and I'm always on the lookout for something different, something unique. This appears to be a rare gem. This is quite an unusual item that is very difficult to find. As I said, I'm going to connect a tape deck. That's the gap there. I'm putting a tape deck there. I'll probably connect one of the Onkyo Intec tape decks I've got. Stay tuned for that, because that's coming soon.